Sanchez caught Young and Fashanu in there. And Sanchez was in there, and that's a goal for Wimbledon. Lawrie Sanchez. Well, what a typical Wimbledon goal. Dennis Wise delivers the free kick. Lawrie Sanchez sneaks in and glances it into the far corner. Oh, the tension here. He's checked with both linesmen. Oh, and there it is. The Crazy Gang have beaten the Culture Club. Wimbledon have destroyed Liverpool's dreams of the double, and all over the pitch, their players are celebrating something which a few years ago would have been impossible. Sporting gesture by the Liverpool supporters. Her Royal Highness applauds one of the great cup shocks of all time.
Yeah, hard to believe it is 30 years ago this year that Wimbledon caused the greatest shock in FA Cup final history, beating Liverpool. What a line from John Motson on commentary. The Crazy Gang beating the Culture Club. And the man who made it all possible, who scored the winning goal that day, Lawrie Sanchez, is on the line now. Evening, Lawrie.
Good evening to you.
I'm sure you've heard that commentary and watched the goal back thousands of times at this stage. Is that a moment? Is that a goal? Is that a day that changed your life forever?
Does it change my life? As you look back on it, you know, at the time when you were living it, you didn't realise how important it was. When you look back on it now, and you still talk about it 30 years later, you realise that perhaps it was it certainly was a defining moment in my playing career. No doubts about that, and probably the club's Wimbledon's playing time as well. And but it is a memory now. John Motson famously retired this week or at the end of this season as well, and he mentioned that it was one of his highlights. So it's good. I mean, it's nice for your son to be able to have those memories of his father, if you want.
You really get a sense, even from the audio commentary there, of the atmosphere on the day, the sheer volume of noise within the stadium, reflective of just how big an FA Cup final was back then. It was bigger than the European Cup. It was bigger than the league title. This was the one day of the year that football was centre stage in every single household in countries around the world.
Well, I mean, you've got to remember as well, it was the last all-standing game at Wembley, so there was a 92,000 crowd there, before it went down to all-seater and lost, 18,000 odd seats, 18,000 places. So it was a massive crowd. Again, it was the last time that the FA Cup was shown on both BBC and ITV, and, their build-up used to start in the morning, there used to be It's and Knockouts and Celebrity This, Celebrity That, all around the Cup final, leading up to the Cup final being the peak. I mean, the whole day was set aside for the Cup final. Not like it is at this moment in time where, that it's pushed to 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock or this or that, or other things take more precedence. It was the defining game of the season. And you've got to remember as well, Liverpool, who were exceptional at that time. I mean, John Barnes was Player of the Year, I think, and Peter Beardsley was in that team. If they had been in Europe, I mean, we had the 5-year ban at that time. If they'd been in Europe, they'd have another couple of European Cups under their belt, I'm sure, that side. They're a magnificent side. They'd won the league at a romp. And, we were up against them on what was a defining day for myself and for our club. And we stood up to the challenge. Luckily, I scored the goal. But, it stands out there now, years later, as one of those real rags to riches story, a team that had come from non-league 25 years previously to beating the best team in probably Europe at the time.
Yeah, it's important to reinforce that point, probably for younger listeners, because this game is my earliest memory of watching football, and for anybody probably 35 or older, it's a game that's etched in their minds. It was such a brilliant story. Because Liverpool were such an outstanding team, it was only 5 or 6 weeks after they'd beaten Forest 5-0 in a league game that's often described as their best ever performance. They were a team, if they were in Europe, probably would have still been winning European Cups. Whereas now, if you were to look at it statistically, you would think, well, Wimbledon finished 7th in the league, they finished 6th the previous year, that this is like Burnley beating Manchester City in a cup final, which wouldn't be seen as one of the great underdog stories. But from playing Division 4 football 7 years earlier, it was the ultimate rags to riches story.
It was, and as I say, people don't realise, I mean, in my time, my generation, Liverpool were the Man City, Manchester United, Arsenal rolled into one of that time. The 70s and mid-70s to early 80s, they were the dominant force in English football. And, they were exceptional, and they were dominant in Europe as well. So for us to go there on that, when they were going for the double, and to turn over that team, and deserve to at the end of the day as well. I think we deserved to win the game. To do that, made it doubly pleasurable, if you want. And I think we were 4-1 underdogs at the time. And it's unusual in a two-man final to have 4-1 underdogs, especially as we finished 8th in the league that year. So we weren't by any means a poor side. But we played a certain way, they played a certain way. So it was a clash of cultures as well, And all those things came together to make what was not a memorable final playing-wise, but a memorable result, if you want.
I was wondering, all right, how now, 30 years on, you look back at the way we still talk about this game and the coverage as Wimbledon being this ultimate underdog, considering how well you were playing in the league, considering the talent of the players within that team. When you look at the players alongside you, Vinnie Jones, Dennis Wise, John Fashanu, Terry Gibson, Dave Besant in goal, John Scales coming off the bench, the fine careers so many of those players had. This wasn't a team that was still in the non-league. This was a team, as you say, had maybe a very set style that was somewhat in stark contrast to the way Liverpool played, but it was a style that worked far more than just on this one day in Wembley.
Yeah, and you missed Terry Phelan out of there, obviously a Republic star. Yeah, we were, I think at the time, we weren't regarded, despite the fact of the rise of the story from, although they'd been in the league 25 years, the rise from the Division 4 to the top division took 5 years, I think. And then we finished 6th our first season in the top division. I think we finished 7th or 8th in the second season. We played the cup game. And in fact, we were the last team, I think, to win at Anfield in the league. Prior to that, we'd won the previous season, and that was the last time Liverpool had been beaten at home in the league. So in ourselves, we were confident of our abilities and what we could do. But I think that it's the rise of the story of Wimbledon from where it had begun to where they were competing against the giants of Europe, and the fact that we won it. If we'd have lost it, a lot of people wouldn't even refer to that cup final, it'd just be another one. But the fact that we actually won it and deserved to win it, and we played, as I say, there was a clash of styles as well. Liverpool were the culture club, as John Watson famously said about them, and we were the crazy gang of southwest London. So it was a clash of styles as well as everything. Clash of cultures, clash of clubs, clash of history. Clash of new boys against old boys. It was a clash on many, many levels, and ultimately a team that we were the underdogs, but probably to the ordinary person in the street, we were their team against the aristocrats of Liverpool, and it's nice when that story sometimes gets turned on its head.
One of the reasons as well that we still look back on it is because of, I don't want to say it's taken on a mythical status, but was the Crazy Gang, because I think there was nothing mythical about it. It seems everything that we heard did happen, from the burning clothes of new signings to the drinking sessions to the fighting inside the dressing room, and the recent documentary that came out gave a good insight into it. When you look back now, long since having left Wimbledon, just how crazy were those times?
It's strange. I say to people often ask me that question, what was it like being part of that culture or in that situation? And when it's your daily life, you just accept it for normal. It's like being in the middle of a hurricane or a tornado. When you're right at the eye of it, it seems completely normal to you. It's only when you come outside of it you realise all the turmoil and destruction and everything that people see it from outside that it causes, and we, as I say, we led it. It was our daily lives. You had to be sharp as a pin in the dressing room, banter-wise and all sorts-wise. On the training field, you had to be sharp as well. You couldn't have a day where you thought, I'll just take this easy today. But, the tackles flew in and everything in training. We trained like we played, to be fair. And when we crossed the line together, we didn't all get on. This is well documented. We didn't all get on. But once we crossed the line, we were in it together, and we were a team. And a team ultimately is the sum of the parts is greater than the actual parts itself, and we were that. We together we gelled in a way that perhaps as individuals, if we'd just done our own thing, we wouldn't have done. We had a method of successful. We believed in it. We were successful, and we took it. Along with good coaching, we took it to people and showed them, well, we're here. let's get on with it. And, you know, sometimes teams got carried away with the crazy boy stuff, wanted to prove how strong how tough they were, and they forgot that they were better footballers than us and wanted to concentrate on the physical aspect. And in those days, you could be more physical than you could now. I mean, you know, you see the tackles now that stopped in Europe. I mean, your eyes in our day, not just us, but the whole division at that time. You know, tackles were allowed to crunch in, people were allowed to challenge for balls with elbows. You know, all sorts used to go on. But obviously with 20 odd cameras nowadays, and most of that is not, you know, we were only covered by 1 or 2 cameras in our days, you know. So most of that stuff wasn't caught on film. But today, any indiscretion is caught on film and reviewed afterwards, something that never happened in our day. But that said, with all the other stuff, at the end of the day, most of those players went on from that cup final. I mean, Dave Beasant left that season after that summer to go to Newcastle, and he was a world record transfer for a goalkeeper. I mean, Terry Phelan went on and left and was a world record signing as a left back. Scales left later on and became a world record signing as a centre half. You know, so all these players went on and proved, and most of them capped internationally. I think the final gave us credibility, and after that, people realised, these are good players, and we need them in our team. They're winners, you know.
So with that in mind, do you look back at that time and think, we got the absolute maximum out of this group of players? Or is there also a part of you that looks and thinks, well, actually, maybe if we'd had a slightly different way of playing at times, a slightly different attitude within the group, we could have gone on and achieved even greater things?
No, we as I said, we were better than the sum of our parts. And the other thing is, would have been interesting for the Cup Winners' Cup. It would have been in those days, wouldn't it? And we would have got into Europe, having won the Cup, and we would have played in Europe, and we would have rampaged through Europe as well. We have no doubts about that. The way we played, our level of commitment, what we could achieve at Plough Lane, or you know, as we played out in those days before the Premier League, we could have rampaged through Europe. But I'd love to have a tilt at a European competition, because I wouldn't put it past us to win one.
Yeah, European football wouldn't have seen too many teams like Wimbledon, I dare say.
No.
For anyone who hasn't seen it, the Crazy Gang documentary that came out quite recently, it's well worth a watch. I was wondering if you noticed any sort of a change in attitude amongst people towards what Wimbledon achieved since that came out, and a lot of the stories, because I guess it was 30 years ago, our attitudes towards what masculinity is and what men are meant to be has changed a lot in terms, and in football has changed a lot in terms of violence, in the way players speak to each other now, and the just general attitudes around training grounds and what's acceptable. Do you look back in hindsight and think, wow, some of the things that we got up to and some of the pranks that may have been seen back then, some of the attitudes towards new signing, towards younger players were unacceptable? Or do you feel it was 30 years ago, it was just the way things were at the time?
Yeah, they wouldn't have been acceptable today. I mean, no bones about that. There would have been accusations of bullying, and well-founded accusations of bullying. I think John Scales brought it up in the video himself. He felt, he didn't say the word, but he felt intimidated by some of the stuff that went on. Players didn't make it at our club. I mean, good players came in, and for one reason or another, they couldn't deal with the situation at the club, with everything that went around it. So, yeah, I make no bones, you know, that club as such couldn't survive in the modern day with the modern scrutiny, the modern era, the modern snowflake generation. Would not be possible to, you know, there'd be court cases left, right and centre. But it was 30 years ago, and the culture, whether people like it or not, culture 30 years ago is completely different to the culture now. You know, some would say today for the better, and I probably agree with that. You know, certainly some of the things we got up to or what happened in the dressing room, you're not accepting any dressing room today. But it was a different time, and much as you can talk about what shouldn't have happened then, if it shouldn't happen today, different generations have different standards. You know. I think famously, I was just reading the paper today, they're going to show the Dam Busters film in 400 cinemas, and they're going to just leave the original name of the dog in it, which you obviously can't say today because it's a completely non-acceptable term. But in the 1940s, there was nothing that was thought of it. So, you know, there are different generations, and the producer of the film said you have to accept what was acceptable at the time. You can't, in hindsight, look back on it and say, well, today it's not acceptable, therefore we have to rip down everything that went with it. You have to get on with it. You live in the area that you live in.
So when you meet up tomorrow night and there's a little bit of a reunion at AFC Wimbledon to honour the 30-year anniversary, do you all look each other in the eye and think, yeah, we soldier together, we achieved something great? Or is there maybe in the wake even of the documentary, is there a part of you that are looking at each other thinking, all right, we realise we overstepped the line here at times?
No, I think now, I saw. I love American films about sport. And I can't remember the name of the film, and the talk before the final for these players was that sometime in the future, when you're old men, you'll be able to look across the room and know you've achieved something together. You won't have to say anything. You can just look, and you know. And that's all we have. Whether we like each other or not, whether we're best friends or not, however we get on today or however we got on then, you look across the room and you know that you shared something with people that was unique. And that is something, whatever way you look at it, is special.
And it still is special, even to this day, this FA Cup victory, because the way the FA Cup has been tainted over probably almost 25 years at this stage, even talking around the office, people asking what time is the cup final on Saturday, whereas, as you say, everyone knew it was 3 o'clock Saturday. The build-up began at 9 a.m. and we got such a good insight into the squads and the teams and the way the BBC and ITV covered it. When you look back then and the day and the week leading up to the cup final, are there memories that stand out of not just the game and winning, but really the hype around the event?
Yeah, I mean, on one respect, the hype today is 10 times more. I mean, much as you rightly say, people say, well, what day is it and when is it and what kick-off time? And you used to know when it was. The thing today, though, is we don't have the internet, which is probably good in those days, but with the internet and everything around it and the media coverage, the coverage is actually 10 times more. Everybody wants to know every individual thing about every individual player. So the intrusion is probably a lot more than it was in our day when it was just 2 TV channels and, the broadsheets and in this country. Now it is a worldwide thing, and every media outlet wants some part. So for the players, I'm sure it's a massive, probably bigger thing than in our day. That said, for me, it was, for me, the time that it got tarnished a little bit, the FA Cup, was when Man United pulled over to go to the World Club Championships. I don't know if you remember that. They as champions, at
the turn of the century,
winners, they were allowed to go, and they didn't put a team in the competition, and so that was a bit disappointing, and from then the Cup has taken some of the credibility out of the Cup. But now, it's the last game of the season again, it's a massive build-up, 2 of the biggest teams in the country. For the players themselves to play, you can play all your life. I played all my career. I've got one winner's medal for 4th Division champions. I've got promoted another time, got promoted twice without any medals, no playoffs or anything like that. And I won an FA Cup winner's medal, and I played 17 years. And I would say that is probably, that is in the top 10% of what players achieve. Because a lot of players play their whole life, don't win anything. Even the top players. I mean, I think Alan Shearer won, played all his career, best player, one of the best goal scorers ever to play in the Premier League, won the league once. So winning trophies is as I say to people, I sometimes do chats for players and such like. At the end of the day, your kids won't ask you to see a copy of your wage packet at your peak. They want to see something like a medal. Because a medal holds everything about what you were and what you did. Your wage slip doesn't necessarily cover that.
Where is the medal?
It's on display. I used to have it locked away in my safe for years, and I thought, well, that's a bit of a waste of time. So I've got it out. I've got a little box, and I've got it in my front room. So you walk into my front room, you can see it.
Nice.
I've got to say one thing. I mean, I do love the way Americans do things, but the fact that they give the rings, that they can wear to dues, like they can wear to, their whatever major dues they go to, like PFA dinner or whatever. Yeah. I think it's a great thing that players could turn up with a cup final ring and have it on their finger. Something garish and something big and something expensive, but shows that they won a cup. I think that's a terrific idea, and perhaps it's probably a better idea than a medal. But I've got my medal on display. Come to my front room, you can see it.
The good amount of those Liverpool players who played in 88 had already won a cup final in 86 or went on to win one in 89. But they were on the receiving end of this shock. What was the atmosphere like at full time, and as he headed back to the dressing room, what was the reaction like from the Liverpool players?
Well, I'll tell you what the reaction was like. By the time we'd done the lap of honour, done our media things, got back in the dressing room, so you're talking 20, 25, 30 minutes probably tops back in the dressing room. And all of a sudden thought, well, we haven't swapped shirts. And in those days, you only got one shirt for a cup final. You didn't, today they get one to swap and one to keep, So me and Dave Besson went next to the away dressing room to knock on the door to see if we could swap shirts with them, and they'd gone.
They were gone from the stadium?
They were gone, yeah.
No hanging about?
No hanging about. Not what they expected. They weren't hanging about. And likewise, 80% of that crowd were Liverpool fans as well. Because you've got to remember, we averaged about 6,000, 6,500 at home. So, our crowd fan base is smaller than Bournemouth, and so if we had 12, 15,000 fans there, I'd be surprised. But, all those Liverpool fans had left the stadium as well. So we did a lap of honour, and we're doing it to a three-quarters empty stadium. So that's my abiding memories. We weren't there to be celebrated by the Liverpool fans. That was for sure, all by the team who disappeared.
What was the party like that night?
Oh, brilliant. I mean, I've got to say, in all my time at Wimbledon, and we were ramshackle. It was a ramshackle. We were a non-league club in everything apart from the team on the field that were a Premier League club. The ground was non-league. The administration was non-league. Everything, 5,000. We say 6,500 average. You didn't have to have a Premier League outlay. It was non-league in every aspect apart from the team that went on the field. That day was the one, or that night was the one night where they did us proud. I mean, they had a marquee on the pitch. So we came down the tunnel into a marquee. Everybody had an individual table for guests and that. They did Match of the Day live from there. So there was not John Watson, Jimmy Hill and I'm trying to think, Des Lynam. They were presenting it live from a little bunker in the corner.
Right.
So they got us all into it, at certain times to talk to us live, because again, Match of the Day was live in those days, not pre-recorded. And it was just an excellent night. As I say, I always think of it as the one time Wimbledon, the actual football club, did everything right for the players, and it was a fantastic night. That said, by about 12 o'clock at night, I am absolutely, I didn't eat, because, you're doing this, you're doing that, you're talking, you're drinking, but you're not eating. 12 o'clock at night, and it was 100 degrees that day, pitch side. So, by then everything had come in, tiredness, the drink, and I was just falling asleep, and I said, I've got to go, back to the Canizares, which is a lovely hotel on the Common. So I was on my way back down the tunnel with my wife, and I met my brother coming in because he'd been out celebrating. He'd bet on me I think he had 10 quid on me at 33-1. Oof. So he actually won more money because we didn't get a bonus for winning than I did. So he was literally coming into the tunnel as I was walking out, and I said, "Where you been?" He said, I've been having a drink, been celebrating. He said, "Where are you going?" I said, "I'm going back to bed." He said, "What do you mean you're going to bed? It's 12 o'clock. You've just won the cup final. Your goal score, when he scored the goal, you've got to stay up forever." I said, "Vince, I'm falling asleep. I can't keep my eyes open. I'm knackered." I said, "I'll tell you what. You go in, celebrate for me. Get out to the hotel in the morning, and you can come I'll get you on the coach, and you can on the bus ride with us around town." Didn't see him for about 3 weeks. He was the last man chucked out of that marquee, and just missed the bus ride. And I saw him 3 weeks later. He was still celebrating. The
winnings didn't last too long.
I mean, in those days, £330 was a lot of money.
Lawrie, it's been brilliant to talk to you. I won't lie, you made my 7-year-old self cry quite a lot. I'm sure you've
told me that as well.
Yeah, I'm sure you've heard that a lot down the years.
Yeah, no, but they've had their moments since, to be fair, and they got them back. They beat my Wickham team in the semi-final in 2001. So my life has been tied up by Liverpool.
Yeah, I got to the stage by 2001 where I wasn't shedding too many tears over Liverpool anymore. Lawrie, great stuff. Pleasure to talk to you, and enjoy the reunion tomorrow night.
All right, thanks very much.